From the moment his eyes opened in this world, he was different. The other children called him weird, because when they played with dolls, he said he wanted to be the one inside the coffin being buried alive. When they played cops and robbers, he was always the robber willing to do anything to get caught, so he could experience life behind bars. And when they pretended to be animals, he would always choose to be the one that got eaten by the lion. He loved pain, not normal for a sick. That's why when Father Benedict took notice of him and offered to send him to a religious school run by monks, everyone thought it was a great idea. There was only one problem. Young Lucian wasn't exactly thrilled at the idea of going to live with a bunch of old, smelly monks who didn't bathe and were more concerned with praying than having fun. But his parents didn't care about his feelings. They just wanted him gone from their house. So off he went to the monastery. It wasn't all bad though. At least he had someone who liked him there. Father Benedict, the man who took him in, treated him like a son. One day while cleaning the church, Lucian heard the old priest talking to God. "My Lord," Father Benedict prayed, "I have brought you another lost sheep to save. Please help me show him the light." Years passed and Lucian grew up into a handsome young man with an unusual taste for the macabre. He still loved playing the role of the victim in every game, but now girls also threw themselves at him. Yet despite his good looks and charm, Lucian had a dark aura around him that frightened people and made them feel uneasy. Even his own reflection in the mirror looked like it had been taken from a funeral home. But Benedict never gave up on him. He saw something good in Lucian that no one else did. When Lucian turned 20, his father told him it was time to choose a profession. He suggested becoming a priest like Benedict. "You already know the Bible by heart and you can speak to God yourself. You are truly blessed, my son." "I don't want to be a priest," Lucian replied. "I want to suffer." Benedict frowned. "What do you mean?" "I want to become a priest so I can serve God and then betray him. I want to feel the pain of betrayal and damnation, so I can finally die happy." Father Benedict felt his heart break at those words. All these years he'd spent trying to save Lucian and it hadn't worked. It was obvious to him now that Lucian had been destined for hell since birth. Still, he tried one last time. "Lucian, what kind of sick pleasure do you get from suffering? Why do you want to feel betrayed and damned? Just look at yourself. You're not normal. Ever since you were born, you found pleasure in pain. That is not normal." "I don't know what kind of sick pleasure you're talking about. I just like being dominated, punished, and controlled. You haven't noticed how everyone treats me with fear or disgust. I like it when someone takes charge and doesn't let me do anything anymore." "You think that's sick? Well, maybe I am sick, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm going to be a priest. If you won't train me, I will go somewhere else." Benedict felt like he was arguing with a brick wall. Of course, he couldn't stop Lucian, not after everything he'd been through, so he finally relented and started training him to become a priest. Years passed and Lucian grew up to be a handsome young man with an unusual taste for the macabre. He still loved playing the role of the victim in every game, but now girls also threw themselves at him. Yet despite his good looks and charm, Lucian had a dark aura around him that frightened people and made them feel uneasy. Even his own reflection in the mirror looked like it had been taken from a funeral home. One day, Father Benedict fell ill and died. Now that he was dead, Lucian would finally be ordained as a priest by another bishop. He put on the white robes, but underneath he wore black. His cassock was embroidered with images of skulls, bones, and demons. When the bishop placed his hands on Lucian's head, he felt power surge through his veins. Now he was a priest, but his new collar didn't bring him the satisfaction he had hoped for. Lucian began visiting churches all over the country, each more magnificent than the last, until he came across a huge cathedral in a faraway city. It was here that he decided to settle. He became known throughout the land as the Black Priest. He didn't shy away from any task, and soon the whole congregation loved him, especially the young, beautiful women. They were drawn to him like moths to a flame, even though deep down they knew he wasn't normal. Yet there was one woman who fascinated him more than any other. She was the daughter of the town's wealthiest merchant. Her name was Amara, and she was everything Lucian wasn't. She was bright, cheerful, honest, and full of life. He knew she shouldn't be anywhere near him, but he couldn't help himself. He needed her, and he would get her even if it meant destroying her. The first time he saw her, he was sitting in a cafe and she walked in with her friends. As soon as Lucian laid eyes on her, he felt a strange sensation in his chest. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced before, and he liked it. Maybe this is what love feels like, he thought, watching her sit down at a table with her girlfriends. He approached her cautiously, trying not to let his true nature show. After all, he didn't want to scare her away. But when she looked up and saw his pale face with its black hair and dark clothes, she felt a chill down her spine. Still, she forced herself to smile. "Can I help you?" I just wanted to say hello," he stammered, taken aback by her beauty. "I'm Lucian Amara." She smiled again, but this time it didn't reach her eyes. "What brings you to this town, Lucian?" he shrugged. "I'm a priest. I travel from town to town helping people." She nodded slowly. "Well, thank you for stopping by, Father Lucian. It was nice meeting you." As he turned to leave, he heard her whisper, "But please stay away from me." Of course, Amara knew perfectly well that Father Lucian wasn't like other men. Everyone in town knew it, yet no one could explain why they felt uncomfortable around him. But for some reason Mara was intrigued by him and his darkness. She found herself drawn to him like a moth to a flame. She couldn't understand why, but she knew she had to get closer to him, even if it meant putting herself in danger. She had to know what it was about him that made her feel so uneasy, so alive. Meanwhile, Lucien couldn't get Amara out of his mind. Her scent, her touch, her laugh, it all haunted him day and night. He wanted to possess her, to make her his, but he knew he couldn't do that without destroying her. So he began visiting her house every day, bringing her flowers and gifts, trying to win her over with his charm. But Amara was careful not to let him get too close. She could feel his darkness enveloping her, suffocating her, and she was scared. She knew she shouldn't trust him, but she couldn't help herself. She wanted to know what it was about him that made her feel so alive. Then one day, Father Lucien made a mistake. He came to Amara's house late at night, hoping to slip inside and take her by force. But when she opened the door and saw his dark figure standing there, she screamed and slammed it shut. He stood there for a moment, listening to her terrified screams, and then he laughed. He had never felt so alive. From that day on, he didn't try to hide his true self from Amara anymore. He visited her in broad daylight, bringing her flowers and gifts, and told her stories of his dark past. And Amara listened, mesmerized by his tales of horror and pain. Soon, she was spending all her time with Father Lucien, ignoring her friends and family. She didn't care anymore. She was in love with the devil, and he was going to destroy her. And so the love story of the devil and the priest continued. Two souls bound together by their shared darkness, forever lost in their own private hell.